Hello again, everybody. It's Playboy's Ghost Channel. I want to relate my experience with the Bearman Derringer 38 Special. I don't see a whole lot of people really giving these a lot of high praise. I see a lot of videos with, complaints. And I understand those complaints because I set out to do a video with this gun the other day. Took y'all over the sand. Well, I took the camera over the sandpit. Didn't end up taking y'all. And started out trying to shooting it on camera, and I realized that even though I had done a little bit of work to it, smoothing it up, polishing a couple of things inside, and got it so that the trigger pull's not that bad. Matter of fact, trigger pull's, pretty decent. I mean, I can live with it. I'm not saying it's good, but it's a lot better than what you hear the complaints carry on about. But I was trying to shoot it for y'all on camera, and I was getting light primer strikes, and it was times that I might have got 1-2 shots to fire for every 10 times I pulled the trigger. So, needless to say, that video did not get posted. I'm going to show you what I have done to this. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't like tinkering with a gun at all, then I can't really recommend that you get this. Now, for me personally, I know this is not a Bond Arms. I would like to have a Bond Arms, and I'm probably going to get one after having this one. But I'm probably going to hang on to this one too, and I'll tell you why. If you don't mind tinkering with it a little bit, you can straighten out some of the problems that this gun has. First thing that I didn't like was the fact that this one did not come with any sort of half cock. Now, I know on the previous Cobra that I had, it had a half cock or whatever, so I took the hammer out of it, which I took this gun completely apart. I took the hammer out of it, and I cut a safety notch into it. Listen real closely. Well, let me get it back far enough. Got to start from with the hammer down. There you go. That will keep the hammer from resting on the firing pins. The firing pins don't protrude at all. And I've pushed real hard on the back of this hammer, and it's not giving. Now, if you pull the trigger, it'll release it from that half cock or the little safety notch that I cut into the hammer. But, I still have the option of running the safety on it here too. Now, am I really going to carry this a whole lot? Probably not. If I did, it's going to be in my pocket. And this is not my preferred pocket carry, but if I did carry it, it would be in my pocket. And there's a pretty good chance that I would have the safety on it. Like that. So that there's no chance of it ever resting on the firing pin. Now, that hammer is on that little notch that I made onto it. I mean, that I cut into it with a Dremel and a cutoff wheel. You can hear it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't know why that when this gun was took over by Bearman or rebranded or whatever, I don't know why they didn't do that. I did it. So there you go on that. Now, the light primer strikes, I'll show you how I fixed that issue. And this was not a gun that I had removed any coils from the mainspring in, because I had a feeling, based on the videos I was seeing, that this gun was going to need, and I'm having to tap the back of my screen every now and then, is why y'all see the gun, see the thing shake. I had a feeling from looking at the videos that light primer strikes might be a problem, so I did not take any coils off or lighten this mainspring at all. And it was a good thing. So when it was giving me light primer strikes, I noticed that when you push the hammer all the way forward, that the strut that goes down into this spring right here, it's actually a double spring, I noticed that it was not following the hammer all the way forward, and it was actually getting loose in here. And it was loose enough that it would, move around a little bit. So I thought, yeah, that might end up being a problem. Well, y'all, it was a problem. And I didn't really want to stretch the spring and risk putting a bend in it anywhere that was going to start catching and snagging on this other spring that runs the selector for the upper and lower barrel. So what I did was I simply, and you can do this with it in the gun. You don't have to pull the hammer out of the gun to do this. I used a set of snap ring pliers, got in here just right so that you could press down on this, and then You could pull that out with a hammer in it. You don't have to take the gun apart to get this strut and this spring out. What I did, I just took a couple of small pieces of leather and stuffed it down in this little pocket that the spring sits down in the bottom of it. You know, therefore making it effectively a little bit longer and putting just a little bit more tension on it. And y'all, now I test fired it, and I know we're not out there in the high winds now doing it where I could show you, but take my word for it, I test fired it a few times and it was hitting the primers plenty good. And I'm not supposed to dry fire this, so I'm not going to, but it was hitting the primers real hard, and it was firing every single time I pulled the trigger. So there's one fix. Don't send the gun back to the company unless you just want to pay the shipping. Wait, you know, if you want to be upset at them, I understand that. Go ahead. They should have it right from the beginning, but this is a cheap gun. So I don't personally mind pulling that out. Of course, you know, not everybody wants to cut their own safety notch in the hammer, but it really wasn't any big deal. I looked at the parts diagram on a Cobra model before I did it to get an idea about the angle of how to cut it, even though the hammer is just a touch different, not very different, but a little bit different in that area. But y'all, it's really no big deal. Stuff you something down in the bottom of this, not much, just 2 thin pieces of leather. I worked them down there into the bottom of that, put the spring back in, and every time I fired it after that, every time I pulled the trigger on a live round, I got a fired round. That takes care of that issue. Now, I'm not saying that's going to make it a perfect gun, but it sure did improve it in that regard, that respect. It fixed that issue for me. So therefore, I'm not going to complain about it. I knew it was a cheap gun when I bought it. It will fire reliably every time. And I'll tell you another thing that makes these guns a little easier to shoot. Now, I'm not going to attest to its effect on the safety of everything. But that trigger guard that came on this, the square trigger guard, it's in this box, squared off one, rectangular. It sits down lower right here. You know, there's material here that interferes with the angle that your finger can get on that trigger. And I find, and I polished the face of this trigger just a little bit more, made it just a little bit slicker so that even when I'm pulling straight back, that it's still able to slip that trigger downward a little bit easier. But I think that trigger guard, if you put that back on, if I put it back on, is going to make this gun a lot harder to fire, to pull the trigger on. And it's really not that bad at all. So, there you go. I mean, that's not a firing video, and I had some of these. These are black powder 38 special rounds, 158 grain bullet that I cast. That's what I was going to fire on video, and now I have to schedule it for another day that's not so dang windy. Well, I hope this helps out some of the people who are interested in the Bearman Derringers. The Bearman Big Bore Derringer that I've got here needed a little bit of work. It really was no big deal. And now I've got a little safety notch that I actually even, I'll trust it more and more the more I use it, I'm sure. You know, right now this is a fun gun for me. However, no gun is really just a toy, so could this be used to defend your life? Well, in the right circumstances, the right situation, the right ranges, the right application, yeah, any gun can be used for defense. Is it the most optimum thing? Probably not. But hey, if it's what I got with me, it'll work. Talk to y'all later.